This is going to be the completion lesson for the reversing washers, which reviews dimensioning and how to run some very particular angular dimensions, which may cause some grief for some people who don't know how to run them properly. But our first review will be how many millimeters is the first set of the dimensions from the part. Well, that is 12 millimeters. So I'm going to begin with running a dimension horizontally, and I'm going to be using my standard linear dimension, and I'm going to be dimensioning from this endpoint to this endpoint of the washer. I'm going to bring the 40 up, and I'm going to snap it right in line with the top of the part. The reason for this is so I can accurately edit it to be 12 millimeters away. So I'm going to select it, use a grip, pull it off the part, key in 12, enter. And this is going to allow me to anchor some of the other dimensions alongside. So the next one is the 21 dimension. Right click, repeat dim linear. I'm going to select this endpoint and this endpoint, and I'm going to snap it right up in line with the 40, just like that, because I already have this one referenced 12 millimeters away. Now, to run the 12 and the 14 dimension, we can also do it like this. I can snap endpoint to endpoint, and I can just touch the endpoint here, and that's going to make it exactly 12 millimeters away from the part 2. So I don't need to snap this one to here and then grip it up 12 millimeters. And to prove to you that that works, I'm going to do a little measurement utility, and I have my 12 millimeters. So everything is good. To run the 14, linear dimension, click endpoint to endpoint, and snap it in line with the 12, just like that. Okay, moving onward and upward. Right click, repeat dim linear, run a dimension from here to the center. I'm going to snap this one right in line with the 21, and this is a bit jumbled up here. I want to make sure when I select the 82 I grab it at this arrowhead and then bring it up. How much this time? 12 or 10? 10. Exactly. Repeat dim linear. We're going to run a dimension from here to here, and we're going to snap the 31 right in line with the 82. Lastly, we have our overall dimension. Repeat dimension. Snap this one in line with the 82, select the arrow, and again, this dimension is going to be 10 millimeters from the last set as well. And I have it. Okay. Now we're going to work on the right side. Repeat, right click, repeat dim linear dimension. Select this endpoint and select this endpoint. Snap right to that corner in the center, grab the 39th numeric value and bring it out 12 millimeters. Right click, left click, repeat. Select endpoint to endpoint. The 78 snaps to the 39, and I'm going to move it out with a grip 10 millimeters. Just like that. All right, next we're going to work on the left side. Repeat dim linear. We're going to run the dimension for the 12. We're going to snap this in line with this edge, this corner, and we're going to come out 12 millimeters. And the rest of these dimensions are going to just snap right in line. Just like that. Okay, now we're going to do the angular ones. Now we're going to start with this one up here. This one is going to be the easier one. So we're going to go back to our dimension selector. We're going to select angular dimension, and we're going to select this horizontal line and this angular line, and we're going to be able to pull the 30. And I would pull it just until the arrows become inside like that. That's the way it shows it on the iPad sheet. So right there, that's where I would snap. It doesn't have to be perfectly precise, but that is how I would do it. Angular dimensions are not as precise as linear ones. Okay, so now we're ready to do the 30 degrees here and here. Now, let's try that. Angular dimension. I'm going to select this line, and when I go to select this line, nothing happens. It doesn't run the dimension. It will not work. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you. Because this line here is not actual line geometry. It's a dimension extension line that was created as a part of running this 164 dimension. So there's nothing to grab. And this is an older drawing. It comes from a very old drafting book. It was meant to be done manually on a drafting board with manual equipment such as T-squares and set squares, etc. So they weren't thinking about CAD when they did this. But how did I get the 30 degrees on there? I mean, you see it on the iPad. So there's a way to cheat. And what we're going to do, and before we do this, I want to change the layers of all these dimensions. So I'm going to select them. As I've shown you to select, drawing boxes from top right to bottom left. And I'll select that angular dimension. I'm going to go up to layers, and I'm going to select dimensions, which is going to put them all on that layer. Okay, so this might help me to better see the contrast here. Okay, so notice there's no extension lines covering any of the geometry here. All of the physical geometry on layer 0, which is white, which has to be manufactured, is clearly visible. The extension lines all travel to communicate their locations very well. Meaning that if you have something like this, if I click this dimension and I pull the line down like this, this is incorrect. The extension line shouldn't overlap over top of the part. So to fix that, you would select it while not in a command, using a grip, grab the grip, and then just snap it to endpoint like that. And that's how you would go around and fix that problem if you have it. Okay, so what I need to do is create a normal line here. So what I'm going to do is grab a line, I'm going to snap it to this endpoint, and I'm going to bring it up to this endpoint right here. Okay, I'll be able to snap a dimension to this. So I'm going to grab angular dimension, select this line, and now I can do it. And I'm just going to drop it as soon as the arrows become interior like this. And I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. I'm going to draw the line right to the extension line. I'm just going to drop it to the perpendicular snap here. Grab my angular dimension. Same thing. As soon as the arrows become inside, I'm going to drop the dimension. I'm going to select these 4 items. 2 lines I made manually, 2 dimensions, place them on dimension layer. Now, we're almost done, but when you go around and you inspect your work, if done correctly, you're going to notice that even though you snap a dimension to this endpoint and this endpoint, there's an automatic gap that appears. The extension line does not travel all the way to the feature of the drawing that you're trying to communicate in size. This happens automatically without you thinking about it, because I've programmed the dimensions to do this. And this also goes back to that basic dimensioning note I showed you in the hub in the Eye of the Eagle dimensioning drawing, where there's a 2 millimeter gap as to not confuse extension lines with features of the drawing that have to be made. So I have to do the same thing here, right? My extension line needs to be modified as to mimic a normal extension line. I need that 2 millimeter gap. So what I'm going to do is select this line. Well, not in the command. I'm going to pick the grip. I'm going to pull the line down and key in 2. Enter. And that's going to give me the gap. It's going to mimic that gap that is seen everywhere else. And I'm also going to do the same thing down here for professionalism. So 2, enter. Like that. And that's the way it's seen on the sheet. So we're also going to have to do the same thing here. Bring this up 2 millimeters. Now, I don't need to do this up here because this extension line travels all the way up with the 164 dimensions. So I don't need to actually touch that grip. I can leave it like this. But everything looks okay now. Everything looks just like the image on the iPad screen. And all of the dimensions are in place. They look neat and proper. They're well distanced. They're done correctly. So that concludes how to complete the reversing washers drawing. This drawing can be printed upon you completing it, and you can give it to your checker to be checked as per that process listed in the hub. Now, you can try your hand at the third drawing, which is the challenger, which is called the template. Good luck, and call me over if you need a hand.